Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to A.O.S. Abroad. Thank you very, very much for joining another wonderful episode, another wonderful educative live session. And today we are going to be tackling a very important topic, a very important issue when it comes to immigration. And for those that know, immigration is closely linked to elections. So today we are going to be talking about the federal government elections in Canada for those that are already current. So, if you are current with what is going on, if you are current with the feedback, or how will I call it now, or what is going on in Canada, you know that the federal election is actually coming up very soon. So, we are going to be talking about what can you expect as an immigrant who wants to actually come to Canada. You want to, you understand, enter Canada, and you want to know before then that how do you qualify, or what do you need to be informed about your qualification, or as regards your qualification when it comes to you being able to relocate safely into Canada this year or next year, or any other time after the next administration actually gets in. You understand? Once they get elected. So today we want to discuss in brief, what do you need to know about Canada immigration? What do you need to know as regards the federal election of Canada? And I'm going to be making use of our newsletter article, which we actually wrote on Relocation 360 by A.O.S. For those who are just joining us, if you don't know, every week, at least once a week, we always come on live and we always share news articles, updates, information about Canada immigration, and how you also can actually learn from. Okay, Arthur, thank you very much. I see a lot of your likes on TikTok. So for those just joining us, we are always on live on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we're also on TikTok. So as I was saying, when it comes to immigration, you need to understand that immigration is a political thing. A lot of things that are happening in the mainstream media, or a lot of things that are happening in Canada, is strictly linked to what the government of Canada wants to happen. You understand? In terms of, do they really want immigration in Canada? What are the policies that are not against immigration but for immigration? And how can you, as someone that is into, or that is willing to come to Canada, how can you take advantage of, you understand, the immigration landscape in Canada? So today, as I said, we are going to be talking about Canada federal elections and immigration 2025 for this year. So we'll be talking about the possible next administration, even though I'm not part of the voters yet that are electing people in the government of Canada. You need to know that there are some people that are going to be competing against one another in the election, and we are going to be talking about some of the people, or some of the parties, basically, because I'm not, this is not a political, it's not a political analysis channel. So we are going to just be talking about the parties that are going to be involved. We are going to be talking about their ideologies. What does each and every party think of when it comes to immigration? Because that's what really concerns us, right? So we'll be talking about what does those parties, what do they hold dear to them when it comes to immigration? How did they foresee immigration? Did they foresee it in a positive limelight, or in a neutral or even negative limelight? We'll be talking about that. And we'll now talk about the possible visa policies that we can expect once the next administration comes into power. Do you understand? So, as I said before, for those that just joined, we are making use of our newsletter on LinkedIn. If you go on LinkedIn, and I've shared the link on Instagram, I've shared it on YouTube and Facebook. If you go on the link that we shared right now, it will take you directly to the LinkedIn newsletter article that we wrote this week that talks about this particular topic. But I'll be reading it to you here and also be elaborating and explaining what we need to expect for the next, let's say, 4, 5, or even more years. Now, moving on, we said in the article, Canada federal elections and immigration 2025, the possible next administration and visa policies. Now, we said as Canada approaches the 2025 federal elections, which is going to take place by this Monday, April 28th, and I believe maybe that will be public holiday, I'm not sure, but it's going to be perhaps a long weekend. So this Monday, April 28th, they said all eyes are on the what? Are on the potential impact that the next administration could possibly have on one of the country's most defining strengths. And what is that one defining strength of Canada? The one defining strength of Canada is immigration. A lot of people foresee Canada or knows about Canada by virtue of what? By virtue of its immigration policies. Now, we said immigration is not just a matter of numbers. It's not just, oh, just to know the amount of people coming in. Rather, it is deeply intertwined with Canada's economic growth, because without immigration, a lot of things in Canada cannot happen. You understand? Demographic balance. For those that know about Canada, you know that Canadians are not giving birth as they ought to actually give birth. So as a result of that, there's a decline in population of the kind, or there's a decline in population based on the fact that women are not giving birth as they ought to be giving birth. The ratio of a woman giving birth is low compared to other countries. So because of this demographic balance, immigration is important. Labor market needs, just like women are not actually giving birth again, there's also labor market needs in Canada, because a lot of people are retiring. They are getting into the retirement age, and we have a lack of youths. You understand? Young people, young teenagers, youths, you understand? Young adults who can actually take up those positions, take up those jobs. Do you understand? So there is a shortage between the employees they need and the ones that are currently available. And also, we also have the global reputation in this concept too. So in this article, we are going to explore what may lie ahead, you understand, depending on which political party forms the next government, and what it could mean for new visa policies, what it could mean to immigration targets, what it could mean towards your pathways to permanent residency in Canada. Now, some people may be asking that, okay, what concerns us with immigration or with election? What do we need to know about election? So we are going to give you a brief summary about what we know so far about the 2025 election landscape. Now, you have to note that the Liberal Party of Canada, the one that is led by the Prime Minister Mark Carney, a Canadian politician and economist who is serving as the 24th Prime Minister of Canada and the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada since 2025. You understand? After, of course, Justin Trudeau left, in whose era we oversaw significant immigration reforms. You understand? And record high numbers. There were high numbers. People were coming into Canada like never before in the time of Justin Trudeau. You understand? However, with shifting political sentiments, because a lot of Canadians, a lot of residents in Canada are complaining about how immigrants are just coming. You understand? Some are complaining about how immigrants are taking up their jobs. Some are complaining about how they are not actually getting opportunities like they used to. You understand? How a lot of immigrants, basically, I'm not going to mention any, you understand, country, but how immigrants are making it difficult for them in their country. So as a result of that, based on this increasing political sentiment and growing concerns around housing, for those that have been following Canada's immigration, you know that housing has been one issue that a lot of people, not only even immigrants, are complaining about, but also Canadians, people that are already in Canada, they are not building much houses as they used to. In fact, the ones that are available, you understand, some are still empty that don't have a lot of people in them, and they are going for crazy amounts. Do you understand? They are way expensive as they used to or as they ought to be. So healthcare is another issue. Healthcare is, in fact, a lot of hold ups. Like people have been saying, they have to wait for so long before they get healthcare. You understand treatment, even though healthcare is free. You understand sometimes you may have to actually need to wait a long time before you get that healthcare. Employment, of course, I've said it that lots of Canadians are having issues to talk about how there are no employment for them. The little that they have, immigrants are taking it and things like that. So basically, all these issues have actually brought the opposition parties, you understand, to be gaining traction. They're already gaining audience because, of course, the wrongs of one party, another party is going to capitalize on it, you understand, and actually use it as a yardstick to want to force that government out of the what? Out of power. So let's now move on. They are telling us here that some of the notable contenders, some of the people that we are expecting, some of the parties that we are going to be seeing in the new or in the next federal election of Canada that will be in charge of what? That will be in charge of seeking for votes, that would basically want to come into Canada, come into the country's political system as the new ruling party. You understand? One of them are number one, the Conservative Party of Canada, the CPC. This is the party that has been advocating for controlled immigration. They want to curtail immigration and they want to control it in terms of aligning immigration with housing. So they will not, of course, take more immigrants than they need, but the ones that can actually fill in the housing, you understand? And also job availability. They want to kind of do a situation whereby immigrants will be coming in only if, of course, there are jobs for them to do. They will be coming in, you understand, and they'll be leveling at par with the career opportunities that are available in Canada. Now, secondly, we also have the next party, which is the New Democratic what Party, which is the NDP. Now, the NDP typically are supportive of inclusive immigration. They want immigration, you understand, but they want it to be more focused on social equity and support systems. In other words, they want immigration to be a kind of, they want every immigration to be equal. Every, what they call it, there shouldn't be a kind of, maybe like one country having more quotas of immigrants coming into the country than other countries. They want a kind of scenario whereby there's equity amongst the countries. There's equity that, okay, if we are to take people from country A, it's 50 people we are going to take. From country B, 50. From, you understand, country C, 50, and things like that, based on what they said. And there will be support systems that would also control and, you understand, support immigrants as soon as they are coming into Canada so that they are not just left alone and they are not just stranded. So that's the second democratic, New Democratic Party, NDP. Now, the third one is Bloc Québécois. Bloc Québécois and Green Party. Now, these two parties or these two contenders, they want to influence policy through coalition dynamics or regional lobbying. For those that know Canada, you know that Quebec is one particular province that has quite different things as compared to other provinces. So they want to actually lobby the government, or they want to be have their say in influencing policies in order to better their own what, in order to better their own interests. Now, now that we know the contenders, now that we know some of the parties and some of their ideologies, even though we'll still go in depth to each and everyone's ideology, let's talk about the immigration under the Liberal government, the current government that is in control. Now, the current administration has set ambitious immigration goals. Do you understand? Before they changed this 500,000 new permanent residents annually, we had the 2024 stroke 2026 immigration levels plan that wanted to bring in about 500,000 new permanent residents annually. You understand? But later on, they cut the quotas due to, you understand, the changes and the sentiments of people politically. But again, the liberal government, they also strengthened what? Express entry. They strengthened programs like provincial nominee programs, PNPs. They also strengthened family sponsorship, and they were bringing people in by virtue of some of these what, or most of these programs. And in their own era, they also introduced what? New regional pilots, like the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilots, RNIP, like the Municipal Nominee Program, MNP, even though that I think is defunct now. Now, the different, even the new Rural Community Immigration Pilots and the Francophone Community Immigration Pilots are also new programs that they introduced. They also expanded the Liberal government of Canada expanded the international student and the foreign worker pathways. In other words, they expanded international students to be able to get postgraduate work permits once they actually finish and they are qualified to be able to work, gain experience, and be able to, you understand, be acclimatized into the society in Canada. They also expanded foreign worker pathways to not only be just you come, you work for some few years and go back, but for those that qualify, you work, you understand, you come, you work, and you can possibly switch to what we know as the permanent residence pathways to some other programs or pathways. Now, however, with all these achievements and things they did, there are recent tensions over how, as I said, housing shortages is affecting Canadians and residents, how affordability of, you understand, living expenses is sky high, the infrastructure stress, how immigration has affected, has been a cause of concern to how their infrastructure is being used. So all this has prompted what? It has prompted public and political reevaluation of these policies of the Liberal government. So you may now be asking, what could change? What can we see in the new era or in the new administration that may possibly come through after what? After the elections, the federal elections we have starting on Monday, April 28th. Now, number one, if the conservative parties, which are known as the conservatives, if they win, the Canada first for a change, that slogan, their slogan, Canada first for a change, will be at the forefront of what? Of their campaign. Hence, we may expect that what? There will be a recalibration, a reevaluation, a reanalysis of the what? Of the immigration target. And what do we mean by that? That means there may be, number one, lower or more controlled immigration levels. They will lower the amount of people that are coming into Canada, you understand, as immigrants and also temporary residents. Two, there will be strict emphasis on what? On stricter emphasis on economic immigrants. Who are economic immigrants? Economic immigrants are basically permanent residents or people that want to become permanent residents, whether they are skilled workers over humanitarian or even family class, you understand, programs. Again, there's going to be policies prioritizing Canadians in housing and job markets. You understand? So a policy may be that people should first employ Canadians to a certain degree, you understand, before they can employ immigrants. There may be some policies that would focus on housing Canadians first before housing immigrants. Do you understand? Now, there will also be revisions to study visa and postgraduate work permit programs. So they may kind of curtail the amount of students that are getting those visas, or they may also bring about some eligibility criteria that would make it much more difficult for immigrants to just come into Canada anyhow. Now, those are for the conservative parties. And for those that know the conservative person that, or the conservative politician that is at the forefront of this, that is Paul Poilievre. Paul Poilievre. Now, number two, If the liberals, those that are acting in power now, those that are currently, you understand, acting in power, if they remain in power, their plan, which they have stated on their website, liberals the sea, you understand, it talks about their mantras. And for their mantras, we may see number one, continued high targets with a stronger focus on regional balance. Because, of course, in their previous tenures, they have seen that a lot of people have been coming into provinces like Ontario, like British Columbia, you understand? But they may have a much more balanced target whereby they will spread immigrants into all the other provinces, and in a situation whereby each province is going to have their own quotas of immigrants, and there won't be more immigrants in one place like the other. Now, number two, just like we have seen before, we can see more digital innovations in processing through AI, artificial intelligence, and automation. So, what we may see that I'm not going to be, you understand, surprised for is that some of, or even most of the visas that will be issued by artificial intelligence, will be issued by some of their systems, some of their technological systems, once immigrants have actually what have, you understand, checkmated and they have qualified for some of their criteria. Though there may be still some human intervention, you understand, but it's going to ease in the burden of many visa officers having to actually check all the what, all the um, applications one by one. Now, number three, we can also expect that there will also be a gradual reform in the temporary foreign worker program and also pathways to permanent residence. And yes, we have been seeing a lot of these within this year, early this year, and late last year. We have been seeing a lot of changes. They have changed a lot of people that would have necessarily qualified for work permits before not being qualifying again. They have also added some permanent residence pathways. You understand, like the recently closed caregiver what, or home care immigration pilot program. Even the new rural community immigration pilot and the francophone community immigration pilot are also new pilot programs that they have introduced that would start this April. You understand, to invite people and to come in to Canada as permanent residents. Now, again, in their plan, we are also going to see greater partnerships with provinces. You understand, for decentralized immigration. And what does that mean? All what that means is that Canada is going to be focusing on not just letting the federal government be in charge of immigration fully. Do you understand? But more provinces will be given the authority, do you understand, to have their own say, to contribute to the immigration landscape, and to be able to decide on their own in order to what, in order to fast track and to what, better the immigration landscape. Now, those are for the liberals, if the liberals stay in power. If the NDP, which is the New Democratic Party, if they gain influence either in a coalition government or in a minority government, their own campaign commitments tells us a lot about them. You understand? The possible shifts may include enhancement of newcomer support. They want to enhance and support newcomers in such a way that helping them with settlement. When you have gotten your visa, they will help you settle well. They will help you with healthcare more. They will also help you gain access to housing, affordable housing. Do you understand? For the NDPs now. Number two, there would also be fairer processing of refugees and asylum seekers. One of the things they want to do is they will process refugees and asylum seekers much more fairer. You understand? They will be much more compassionate, and they would have more willingness to, you understand, settle many of those that are, you understand, suffering persecution from other countries. Now, number three is that there will be stronger labor rights and workplace protections for immigrants. For those that have been affected. For example, if you have been affected by work exploitation, by human trafficking, or you have been trying to avoid many of these things, you understand? The New Democratic Party have stated that there would also be much more stronger labor rights. In other words, they will be enforcing many of the rules that revolves around what employment, that revolves around protecting the rights of what of workers in their workplace. You understand, especially immigrants. Now, again, the NDP states that there will also be a more humanitarian focused immigration policy. In other words, they are going to be feeling more, or they will be looking into the feelings more of immigrants. They will be basically be more compassionate, you understand, about the issues that immigrants are facing. They will be more compassionate, and they would bring up policies that would kind of bring about much more humanitarian inclusivity into the landscape of what Canadian immigration. Now, with all this that we have said, you may be asking, how does this benefit me? How does this benefit? What are the advantages that I stand to gain with all this we have mentioned? Now, what this means for aspiring immigrants and stakeholders is whether you are a skilled worker, whether you are an international student, whether you are a business investor, or whether you are a family sponsor, the 2025 election results may reshape what your immigration journey. And it is crucial for you, number one, to first of all stay informed. Stay informed about campaign promises and immigration platforms of all the what all the parties. Be much more informed and be involved. For instance, one of these ways that we are getting involved is to hold live sessions to educate you about what you should expect from any of the what parties that get selected. Oh, Renowned Fashion, you want to join? I have actually accepted it. I hope you're able to join. So be informed about what about their promises. Number two, one of the best advice, one of the best suggestions I can give anyone that wants to work on their immigration is to apply early if you are eligible under the current rules and regulations, under the current policies, before there may be some drastic potential changes coming into effect, let's say late this year or early next year, based on those that are actually elected into office. And another thing is consult with professionals for personalized strategy based on what? Based on the evolving policies. Because let me tell you something, something is evident, something is true, something is factual. That change is inevitable. Change will always come, whether it is positive or whether it is negative, whether it favors you or whether it doesn't favor you. So the question is, how fast are you into what? Into applying for what you qualify for now, what you're eligible for now, before those changes come and you won't stand the chance of being what? Selected again. Another thing is watch for regional programs which may remain strong regardless of the federal shift. One thing that all the parties have said that they are going to do is that they will focus on regional programs. What are regional programs? Programs that are centered on like developing rural areas, programs that are centered on helping people that are marginalized, maybe people that are, of course, refugees or asylum seekers, or people that are francophones, French speakers, people that don't have access to housing, don't have access to jobs. You understand? So watch out for those programs that are going to be in different regions and are going to be for marginalized people. You may actually benefit from that. And what are my final thoughts? My final thought is Canada's immigration future is not just in the hands of policymakers. It's not just in the hands of politicians. It is also in the hands of voters, people that will be voting. So if you are a Canadian or you are a resident that is approved to vote, You understand? As the 2025 election years, it is a pivotal time for, you understand, prospective immigrants, current residents, and even stakeholders to engage for you to plan and for you to adapt to the changes that are coming. Because what is next, we don't actually know. But the road ahead, it may include whether be it reforms of the immigration system, it may be restriction of the immigration programs, it may be expansion of what the immigration quotas. But one thing is central, one thing is sure, and that thing is immigration would remain what? Central. It will remain required, it will remain important to Canada's story. So you may tell me, what is your next plan? What is your next step? Do you plan to apply to programs that you are qualified for now? Or what else do you want to do in order to qualify and to be able to come into Canada if that is your desire? Do you have any questions? If you have any questions, chat in the comment section or send us DMs. You understand? Direct messages, and share your thoughts, share your questions. You understand? Thank you very much, Doing, for your likes. Share your thoughts, share your questions. You understand, in the comments, and let us navigate this exciting journey or path together. If you are interested in more insights about Canada immigration, subscribe to our newsletter on LinkedIn, which is titled what? Relocation 360 by A.O.S. And from there, you get more tips, more guides, more updates on your path to what? To Canadian permanent residence. So to your international success, A.O.S. All right, we have a question from YouTube. Jason Michael is asking, is there anything Oman doing this time around can make flights cannot enter inside the Oman? I don't understand that question. That question is not related to Canada immigration, and I don't think we can help on that. Maybe perhaps you talk to someone that is into Oman or anything Oman flight. We don't have anything related to Oman, or we don't do anything related to the country of Oman. All right. Do we have any other questions from any other person? If you have any other questions, please drop it in the comment section. If not, please always remember that every week, at least once a week, at least, we always come on live to talk about issues, talk about, you understand, topics that are affecting Canadian immigrants. Do you understand? And if you would also like to actually get across to us, go on our profiles. Mr. Jason Michael, I don't know anything about Oman, so please don't ask me about Oman. I don't know anything. I'm talking about Canada immigration. If you look at the title, Canada Federal Elections and Immigration 2025, there's nothing related to Oman here. I don't know anything about Oman. All right. Mr. Doing from TikTok is asking, as a social worker with an intermediate level in French language, 40 years, how best to migrate to Canada? Well, I think you have said it already. Since you are a social worker, you can get into Canada through the various programs that allow social workers. For instance, if you are coming through permanent residence, you can focus on express entry, provincial nominee programs. And with your intermediate level in French language, you stand a chance of getting selected if you can take your language proficiency examinations like CEF Canada or TCF Canada or even DELF-DAF for Quebec immigration. Your age, 40 years, is still along the ages of skilled workers Canada are looking for. However, you will start to lose points, or you have even started losing points basically. So the faster you work on your immigration, the better your chances. The best ways to immigrate to Canada would determine or would depend on what you really want to achieve. If you want to come to Canada and stay here temporarily, you can work on study permits, you can work on visitor visa, you can work on work permits. If you want to stay here permanently, you can work on express entry, provincial nominee programs, Quebec skilled worker program. It now depends on the ones that you want to go through. If you want to learn more about how you can be much more qualified, how you can also, if you have not taken any of the language examinations, how you can get trained to prepare, how to prepare for it very well. Do you understand? And go take the exam. You understand? You visit our website. Do you understand? Once you visit our website, you'll be aosacademy.com. You'll be able to see various how do I call it now, various language preparation, um what they call it, language preparation online courses, and you understand things to actually use to prepare well, practice, and to take the exam in order to become eligible for what they call it, permanent residence. All right, so just visit our website aosacademy.com. Do you understand? aosacademy.com, and you can actually get started with your do you understand, with your language training. All right, or exam preparations, since you said you are in the intermediate level. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. If we don't have any other questions again, then we'll call it a day. Don't forget to like this. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, or Instagram, or TikTok, or Facebook, and also share with your friends and family. Let more and more people know about this. And I hope to see you and every other person that you share it with in our next live sessions. Thank you very much, everyone, and do have a lovely day ahead. Au revoir. Bye for now.